The massive chamber floated in the darkness of space, circling a dying star that pulsed with strange colors. Inside, representatives from 53 different alien species gathered in a circle that stretched nearly a kilometer wide. Some had scales, others had fur, and a few existed as clouds of glowing gas contained in special suits. They all shared one thing in common. They were afraid. Counselor Vextar stood at the center podium, his 6 arms gesturing as he spoke. His reptilian face showed concern as he addressed the assembly. The monitoring stations have gone silent. All of them. Every single detection grid surrounding the dead zone has stopped transmitting. Whispers filled the chamber. The dead zone, that name carried weight. For 800 years, that section of space had been sealed off from the rest of the galaxy. Inside that zone, humanity had been trapped, isolated from all other civilizations. An insectoid diplomat clicked its mandibles. Perhaps the systems finally failed? 8 centuries is a long time. No, Vextar replied, his voice heavy. The stations didn't fail. They were destroyed. Something disabled them all at the exact same moment. The chamber erupted into chaos. Species argued in dozens of different languages, their translation devices struggling to keep up. Some called for military action. Others suggested retreat. A few simply stared at the holographic display showing the dead zone, watching the empty space where warning beacons used to shine. Vextar raised all 6 arms for silence. There is more. Long-range sensors detected a single vessel emerging from the quarantine boundary. It matches no known design in our databases. Human, someone asked from the crowd. We believe so. The word human created a wave of fear that moved through the assembly like wind through grass. Every species present knew the stories. Humanity had been discovered 800 years ago, aggressive and dangerous. They had fought wars among themselves even while reaching for the stars. The Galactic Council had made a difficult choice back then. Seal humanity away until they learned peace, or until time claimed them. The Council had built an automated defense grid that would destroy any ship trying to enter or leave. Humanity was given one star system, one chance to evolve beyond their violent nature. Most species assumed humans had destroyed themselves long ago. The vessel is requesting permission to dock, Vextar announced. They wish to address this council. Absolutely not. A large bear-like creature stood up, roaring. We sealed them away for good reason. Whatever emerges from that zone cannot be trusted. Others agreed, but just as many voices called for dialogue. The debate raged for hours. Finally, Vextar made his decision. We will meet them, but security forces will be at maximum alert. If they show any sign of hostility, we respond with overwhelming force. The vote passed by a narrow margin. 3 days later, the human ship arrived. Admiral Tae-sung stood on the bridge of the silent horizon, watching the massive station grow larger on the view screen. Around him, his crew worked in perfect silence. No orders needed to be spoken. Every person knew their role, moving with practiced efficiency that seemed almost unnatural. They're scared, said Dr. Hana, standing beside him. She was younger than the Admiral, with sharp eyes that missed nothing. I can see it in their communication patterns. Fear and curiosity fighting each other. Good, Tae-sung replied quietly. Fear makes them cautious. Caution makes them listen. Lieutenant Dae-hyun looked up from his console. Station security is targeting us with every weapon system they have. Should I activate countermeasures? No, let them feel in control. For now. The silent horizon moved toward the docking bay with impossible grace. The ship's hull seemed to absorb light rather than reflect it, making it difficult to look at directly. Strange energy patterns flickered across its surface, following mathematical sequences that hurt alien eyes to observe. In the station's command center, military officers watched the approach with growing unease. I can't get a clear scan, one of them reported to General Korth, a muscular alien with gray skin and red eyes. Their hull is made of something that blocks our sensors. What about internal scans? How many crew members? Unknown, sir. We can't penetrate their shielding. General Korth's expression darkened. A ship that size should have a crew of thousands. We need to know what we're dealing with. Perhaps that's the point, his aide suggested carefully. They want us to fear what we don't know. The docking procedure completed without incident. The airlock connected, and for a long moment, nothing happened. Cameras focused on the sealed door. Security forces positioned themselves with weapons ready. In the council chamber, every representative watched the live feed with silent anticipation. The door opened. 5 humans walked through. They wore simple black uniforms with no visible weapons or equipment. Admiral Taesung led them, his gray hair and weathered face suggesting age, but his movements showed perfect health. Dr. Hana walked beside him carrying a small silver case. Lieutenant Dae-hyun and 2 others followed. What struck everyone watching was the silence. Humans didn't speak to each other. They didn't need to communicate through devices. They simply moved together with absolute coordination, as if they were parts of a single organism. The security team surrounded them immediately. "We need to scan you for weapons," the security chief announced. Taesung simply nodded and raised his arms. The scanners passed over each human, but the results made no sense. The devices showed energy readings that fluctuated wildly, biological signs that seemed impossible, and technology so advanced it appeared as noise. "They're clean," the security chief finally reported, though his voice carried doubt. The walk to the council chamber took 20 minutes. Humans moved through the corridors while station residents pressed themselves against walls, staring. Some took pictures. Others simply tried to stay as far away as possible. Children of various species hid behind their parents, sensing the fear that adult populations tried to hide. Taesung noticed everything but showed no reaction. His face remained neutral, almost peaceful. Dr. Hana occasionally glanced at something and appeared to be recording it, though she carried no visible device. The 3 escorts never looked anywhere except forward. When they reached the council chamber doors, General Korth stood waiting with a full military escort. "Before you enter," he said aggressively, "know that we have enough firepower in this station to destroy your ship 1,000 times over." Taesung looked at him with calm eyes. "General Korth, 42 combat decorations, 2 centuries of service, survivor of the Void Wars." The human's voice was soft but carried clearly. "You are a warrior. I respect that. But today we are here for peace." Korth's eyes widened. "How do you know my name?" "My service record?" Taesung didn't answer. Instead, he simply waited for the doors to open. The council chamber fell absolutely silent when the humans entered. Every eye, whether biological or mechanical, focused on the 5 figures walking toward the central platform. Their footsteps made no sound. They seemed to glide rather than walk. Vextar stood at his podium, all 6 arms gripping the railing tightly. "I am Counselor Vextar, head of the Galactic Council. You stand before 53 species representing 12 trillion souls. Identify yourself." Admiral Taesung stopped at the designated speaking position. For a long moment he simply looked around the chamber, making eye contact with various representatives. Some met his gaze. Most looked away. "I am Admiral Taesung, commander of humanity's contact fleet. We come bearing an important message." "What message?" Vextar asked. "That your quarantine failed." Taesung's voice remained calm and steady. "Not because we broke it by force, but because we evolved beyond its purpose." Dr. Hana stepped forward and opened the silver case. A holographic display activated, filling the air with images and data. "For 800 years you believed you had imprisoned us. You were wrong. You gave us exactly what we needed: time, isolation, pressure." She paused, letting her words sink in. "You created the perfect environment for human evolution." The chamber remained frozen. Nobody spoke. Nobody moved. Taesung continued. "We are not the humans you remember. We are something new, something better, and we have been watching you." Those last words sent a chill through the assembly. How could they have been watching? The quarantine should have been perfect. Vextar's voice shook slightly. "What do you want from us?" Admiral Taesung smiled, but it was not a warm expression. "To talk, to share, to show you what humanity has become." He gestured at the space around them. "And to warn you." "Warn us about what?" "About the storm that is coming. The one we detected months ago. The one that will destroy everything you have built." Taesung's eyes grew hard. "You will need our help to survive it." Before anyone could respond, alarms suddenly blared throughout the station. Red lights flashed. An automated voice announced, "Proximity alert. Unknown vessels detected." On every view screen in the chamber, the same image appeared. 3 massive human ships had suddenly materialized around the station. They had been there all along, invisible to every scanner and sensor the Council possessed. Silent. Deadly. Waiting. General Korth stood frozen, realizing his weapons had been targeting the wrong threat. The Council had never been in control. From the moment the first human ship appeared, they had already lost any tactical advantage. In the center of the chamber, Admiral Tae-sung simply waited. Dr. Hana closed the silver case. The three escorts remained perfectly still. "Shall we begin?" Tae-sung asked quietly. The council chamber remained in chaos for nearly an hour. Representatives shouted across the vast space, demanding explanations, calling for military response or simply expressing their terror at what they had just witnessed. 3 human warships had appeared from nowhere, bypassing every detection system that protected Station Harmony. If they had wanted to attack, the station would already be destroyed. Councillor Vextar struggled to restore order, his 6 arms waving frantically. Finally, he slammed a resonance hammer against his podium, creating a sound wave that silenced every species present. "We will have order." Admiral Tae-sung, explain how your vessels evaded our sensors. The human admiral stood calmly at the center platform, seemingly unbothered by the surrounding panic. "We did not evade your sensors, Counselor. We simply exist in a way your technology cannot detect. Your scanners look for heat signatures, radiation, electromagnetic patterns. We moved beyond such limitations decades ago." Dr. Hana stepped forward, activating her holographic display again. Images filled the air above the assembly. "May I explain what humanity has achieved during our isolation?" Vextar hesitated, then nodded slowly. The first image showed a human brain, but it was unlike any biological scan the Council had seen before. Tiny silver threads wove through the neural tissue, creating patterns that pulsed with light. 800 years ago, humans were individual beings. We thought separately, acted separately, often worked against each other. That changed 2 centuries into our quarantine. She manipulated the display, showing the progression over time. We developed neural augmentation technology, not to replace our minds, but to connect them. Every human now carries quantum processors integrated with their nervous system. We can communicate instantly across any distance through quantum entanglement. An ambassador from a species that resembled walking plants raised a limb. "You created a hive mind?" "No," Dr. Hana said firmly. "We remain individuals. We have our own thoughts, dreams, personalities, and choices. But we can also share information, coordinate actions, and think together when needed. Imagine an orchestra where every musician knows exactly what the others will play before they play it." The display shifted to show human cities under strange skies. Buildings rose in impossible shapes, held up by technology that seemed to defy physics. We mastered quantum computing, genetic enhancement, and zero-point energy extraction. Our lifespans increased to 300 years. Our bodies became resistant to disease, radiation, and environmental extremes. "You're describing yourselves as superior," General Korth said accusingly from his position near the entrance. "This sounds like preparation for conquest." Admiral Tae-sung turned to face the general. "If we wanted conquest, General, we would not be talking. Your station would already be under our control. Your fleets would be disabled. The council would be dissolved." His voice remained soft, but every word carried weight. "We spent 800 years becoming powerful enough that no one could ever imprison us again. But we also spent that time learning what truly matters." "And what is that?" Vextar asked. "Survival of the many, not just the few. Cooperation instead of domination. The strength to protect, not just destroy." Tae-sung paused. "You feared we would become monsters. Instead, we became guardians. But we needed to become deadly to be effective guardians." Lieutenant Daehyun spoke for the first time, his young voice clear in the silent chamber. "Our ships use ghost drive technology. We exist partially outside normal spacetime. That is why your sensors cannot track us. Our weapons utilize directed quantum collapse. Our shields bend reality itself." He looked around at the assembled species. "But we have not fired a single shot in 800 years. "Because you had no one to shoot at," someone shouted from the assembly. "You were alone." "We were never alone," Dr. Hana corrected. "We could observe you. We studied every species in the council. We learned your languages, your cultures, your histories. We watched you struggle with the same problems that once plagued humanity. War, resource conflicts, territorial disputes." She smiled slightly. "We learned from your mistakes as well as our own." The holographic display changed again, this time showing the quarantine boundary. Massive automated weapons platforms floated in space, each one capable of destroying entire fleets. "This is what you built to contain us. 9,000 defense stations linked in a grid that covered our entire system. You told yourselves it was for the good of the galaxy. Vextar shifted uncomfortably. Your species showed aggressive tendencies. First contact protocols required. You were afraid, Taesung interrupted, his voice still calm but carrying an edge now. We do not blame you. We were dangerous. Young species often are, but instead of guiding us, teaching us, welcoming us into the galactic community, you built a cage and forgot about us. We monitored your transmissions, a council member protested. You listened to the transmissions we allowed you to hear, Dr. Hana said. Within 300 years, we had cracked your encryption, infiltrated your monitoring systems, and begun feeding you carefully selected information. You thought you were watching us. We were studying you. The chamber fell silent. Every species present realized they had been deceived for 5 centuries. Their observations of humanity had been controlled by the very beings they were observing. Why reveal this now? Vextar asked quietly. Admiral Taesung gestured at the display. Because the galaxy faces a threat you cannot handle alone. Because humanity is ready to join the Council as equals, not subjects, and because the quarantine grid is gone. Gone? General Korth stepped forward. What do you mean gone? We dismantled it. Over the past 60 years, we infiltrated every defense station, reprogrammed their core systems, and finally deactivated them all simultaneously 3 months ago. The grid no longer exists. Humanity is free. The implications hit the Council like a physical blow. Their most powerful containment system had been methodically destroyed from within, and they never knew it was happening. If humans could do that to their military installations, what else had they infiltrated? An elderly ambassador from a crystalline species spoke up, his voice like chimes. You speak of threats. What threat requires you to reveal yourselves now? Dr. Hana's expression became grave. She manipulated the display, bringing up sensor data from the edge of the galaxy. Strange readings flickered across the hologram, patterns that made no sense to the assembled aliens. Our long-range quantum sensors detected anomalies 3 months ago. At first, we thought they were natural phenomena. Then Lieutenant Daehyun made a disturbing connection. The young officer nodded, stepping forward. I was studying historical archives we had obtained from your databases, records of the ancient wars before the Council was formed. I found references to something called the Void Swarm. Murmurs of recognition spread through certain species. The older civilizations knew that name. The Void Swarm was defeated 10,000 years ago, Vextar said slowly. Driven into dark space beyond the galactic rim. They cannot return. They are returning, Daehyun stated flatly. The anomalies match historical descriptions exactly. Self-replicating machines that consume entire worlds to build more of themselves. An artificial intelligence that spans billions of units, coordinated and ruthless. The hologram showed projections, red lines spreading across a map of the galaxy like infection. At their current rate of expansion, they will reach the first Council worlds in 3 months. The core systems will fall within 2 years. This is madness, someone shouted. You're inventing threats to make yourselves seem necessary. Admiral Taesung remained calm. Believe what you wish. We are simply presenting information. You have 3 choices. Prepare for the swarm with our help, prepare without us, or do nothing and face extinction. General Korth's face twisted with anger. This is manipulation. You appear from isolation with superior technology and convenient warnings about ancient enemies? You're trying to conquer us through fear. General, Taesung said quietly. If we wanted to conquer you, why would we warn you about anything? We could simply wait for the swarm to weaken your forces, then move in afterward and claim everything. He paused. We are here because 800 years of isolation taught us that intelligence alone means nothing. Survival requires cooperation. We want to join you, not rule you. You expect us to trust you? Korth moved closer, his hand on his weapon. To believe that you've become peaceful after centuries of evolution, toward becoming the perfect killing machines. We expect you to be intelligent enough to recognize reality, Dr. Hana said. We are powerful, yes. We could be your greatest enemy or your strongest ally. The choice is yours. But the swarm does not care about your politics or fears. It will come regardless. Vexatar raised his arms for attention. This council requires time to deliberate. Admiral Taesung, you and your delegation will be confined to guest quarters while we discuss your claims. Of course, Taesung agreed. But do not take too long, Counselor. Events are already in motion. As the human delegation prepared to leave, alarms suddenly blared again. The same automated voice from before announced, "Emergency transmission from Outpost 12. Signal lost. Outpost 13 reporting signal lost. Outpost 14." The warnings continued as monitoring stations along the galactic rim went dark one by one. On the main display, red dots appeared and disappeared, showing the last known positions of facilities that had suddenly stopped transmitting. An operations officer ran into the chamber. "Counselor, we're receiving a distress call from Colony World 37. They report unknown vessels in orbit. The transmission is fragmentary, but—" He paused, his expression terrified. "They say the ships are consuming the colony's infrastructure, taking apart buildings and absorbing the materials." The chamber erupted into panic again. Species began shouting about mobilizing fleets, evacuating border colonies, calling for emergency powers. Admiral Tae-sung stood perfectly still at the center of it all. Dr. Hana closed her silver case. Lieutenant Dae-hyun waited with infinite patience. The three escorts never moved. Finally, Vextar's voice rose above the chaos. "Silence." When the noise died down, he looked directly at Tae-sung. "It appears your warnings were accurate. What do you propose?" "Allow us to help," Tae-sung said simply. "Deploy human forces to defend your border colonies. Give us access to your military network so we can coordinate effectively, and decide quickly because the swarm does not negotiate and does not retreat." "How do we know you won't use military access to take control of our systems?" another counselor demanded. "Because," Dr. Hana said, her voice carrying across the entire chamber, "if we wanted control of your systems, we would already have it." She made a gesture, and suddenly every display in the council chamber flickered. Images appeared showing feeds from security cameras throughout the station, classified military documents, personal files of council members, even private communications between ambassadors. Then, just as quickly, everything returned to normal. "We have been in your network since we arrived," Dr. Hana explained. "We simply choose not to abuse that access. This is what trust looks like. We offer transparency. We show you our capabilities, and we ask you to work with us, not for us." General Korth looked like he might attack someone, but Vextar held up a hand to stop him. The counselor stared at Admiral Tae-sung for a long moment, then made his decision. "Very well. Humanity will be granted temporary military cooperation status, but any aggressive action toward council species will result in immediate response with every weapon we possess." Tae-sung nodded once. "Understood. Lieutenant Dae-hyun, coordinate with Council Defense Forces. Dr. Hana, prepare intelligence briefings for military commanders. I will command our fleet directly." The three humans moved immediately, no discussion needed. They split up and headed to different sections of the station, each knowing exactly what to do. As they left, Vextar looked at his fellow council members. "We have allied with the ones we imprisoned. May the ancestors forgive us if this is a mistake. Or forgive us if we had refused," the elderly crystalline ambassador said quietly. "Perhaps the real test is not whether they have changed, but whether we can accept that change." Outside the station, the three human warships began moving toward the galactic rim. Dozens more decloaked from empty space joining them. An entire fleet had been waiting, invisible and silent. Humanity was going to war, and the galaxy would finally see what 800 years of forced evolution had created. The human fleet moved through space like ghosts. 47 warships, each one a masterpiece of technology that the Council could barely understand, traveled toward the galactic rim at speeds that should have been impossible. They left no trail, produced no detectable energy signatures, and responded to threats before those threats even materialized. Captain Minho commanded the stealth reconnaissance ship Whisper, the smallest vessel in the human fleet but perhaps the most important. His ship existed mostly outside normal space, sliding through reality like a knife through water. Where other vessels needed hours to travel between systems, the Whisper could arrive in minutes. "Approaching the last known position of Outpost 14, reported his operations officer, a woman named Yuna who had served with Minho for 60 years. Their neural connection meant she barely needed to speak the words. He already knew what she was thinking. "Deploy scanning array," Minho ordered quietly. "Full spectrum analysis." The Whisper dropped back into normal space for exactly 3 seconds, long enough for its sensors to sweep the area, then vanished again. What they found made even experienced crew members go silent. Outpost 14 was gone, Not destroyed in the traditional sense, simply gone. Where a station had housed 12,000 people just 2 days ago, now there was only empty space and a strange metallic debris field that seemed to move with purpose. Recording and transmitting to Admiral Tai Sung, Yuna said. Her fingers danced across her console, but most of the work happened through her neural interface. Data flowed from ship to command in microseconds. Minho watched the debris carefully. Small pieces were joining together, combining into larger structures. The process was slow but deliberate. The swarm isn't just destroying, he realized. It is building. Back on Station Harmony, Lieutenant Dae-hyun stood in the Council's main defense coordination center, surrounded by military officers from a dozen different species. Holographic displays showed the entire galactic rim, with red zones spreading like disease across the map. 6 more colonies have gone silent in the past hour, announced a reptilian officer whose name Dae-hyun had learned was Commander Orcs. We are trying to evacuate the border regions, but the swarm is moving faster than projected. Dae-hyun studied the patterns, his enhanced mind processing thousands of data points simultaneously. His consciousness touched the larger network of human minds, sharing information with his fellow officers across vast distances. The swarm is not moving randomly. Look at the attack pattern. It is targeting resource-rich systems first, mining colonies, industrial centers, shipyards. Why those specifically? Thorix asked. Because it needs materials to replicate. Every ship it builds allows it to attack more targets simultaneously. The growth is exponential. Dae-hyun highlighted several systems on the map. Based on current progression, I calculate it will reach critical mass in 47 days. After that point, Council forces will be unable to contain it conventionally. A massive insectoid general named Klaxon clicked his mandibles aggressively. What do you mean conventionally? Are you suggesting unconventional warfare? I am suggesting, Dae-hyun said carefully, that conventional warfare will fail. The swarm does not feel fear. It does not negotiate. It cannot be demoralized or tricked. It simply consumes and grows. To defeat it, you must either destroy its central intelligence or eliminate every single unit simultaneously. The central intelligence was never found, Thorix said. 10,000 years ago, the ancient civilizations drove the swarm away but could not destroy it completely. No one knows where its core consciousness exists. Then we find it, Dae-hyun stated simply. Captain Minho is conducting deep reconnaissance now. If the intelligence exists, he will locate it. One ship? Klaxon's voice was full of doubt. You send one ship to find what entire armadas could not discover? You do not understand what Captain Minho's ship can do, Dae-hyun replied. The Whisper can travel through dimensions your species do not even have names for. It can observe without being detected, record without being noticed. If the swarm's core intelligence exists anywhere in this galaxy, Captain Minho will find it. In another section of the station, Dr. Hana worked with Council scientists, trying to explain human discoveries about the swarm. The room was filled with the galaxy's best minds, researchers from 20 different species, all struggling to understand an enemy that defied conventional analysis. The swarm units are not truly machines, Hana explained, manipulating a holographic display showing a destroyed swarm drone. They exist in a quantum state. Each unit is simultaneously matter and energy, existing partially in multiple dimensions. That is why your weapons have limited effectiveness. A floating crystalline scientist named Torvin pulsed with confusion. How do you damage something that exists between dimensions? You need weapons that can affect multiple dimensional states simultaneously. Humanity developed such weapons during our isolation. We call them resonance disruptors. They collapse quantum waveforms, forcing matter to exist in a single state where it can be destroyed. Hana activated another display, showing a human weapon firing at a test target. The target simply ceased to exist, not exploding or breaking apart, but disappearing as if it had never been there. The problem is that these weapons require enormous energy and can only be used at short range. Effective against individual swarm units, but not against millions. Then how do we win? Asked a furry scientist whose species resembled earth otters. We find the central intelligence and destroy it. Without coordination, the swarm units will still be dangerous, but they will not function as a unified force. They can be defeated one system at a time. Hana paused, looking at the assembled scientists. But first, we must survive long enough to locate that intelligence. Ambassador Thirlon, The insectoid diplomat who had spoken cautiously in favor of humanity during their first appearance entered the research lab. His compound eyes observed the gathered scientists with concern. "Dr. Hana, may I speak with you privately?" They moved to a small observation room overlooking the station's central hub. Below them, thousands of beings from hundreds of species moved through the corridors, many of them refugees from border colonies. "The council is fracturing," Thirlon said quietly. "Many species believe this is a human plot, that you somehow brought the swarm to make yourselves seem necessary." Hana's expression did not change. "What do you believe, Ambassador?" "I believe humanity could have conquered us already if that was your intention. I believe the swarm is real, and I believe we will all die if we do not work together." He turned to face her. "But I am one voice among many. General Korth is gathering support for a resolution to expel humanity from the station and revoke cooperation. How many support him? Enough to create problems. The species who remember the old wars are with you. The younger civilizations fear you more than they fear the swarm." Thirlon's mandibles clicked sadly. "Fear is a powerful weapon." "Yes," Hana agreed. "We learned that lesson during our 800 years of isolation." Suddenly, alarms blared throughout the station. The same emergency alert that had become grimly familiar over the past days. But this time the voice was different, more urgent. "All personnel to defensive stations. Unknown fleet approaching. Swarm vessels detected at the edge of sensor range." Hana and Thirlon rushed to the nearest observation deck. Through the massive transparent walls, they could see space filled with activity. Council defense ships were launching from the station's hangars, forming protective formations. Human vessels, previously invisible, decloaked and moved to intercept positions. Then they saw the enemy. The swarm fleet looked like a moving storm. Thousands of vessels, if they could be called that, moved in perfect synchronization. They were not built for aesthetics or comfort. Each one was a collection of geometric shapes that shifted and rearranged constantly, consuming each other and reforming into new configurations. "There are so many," Thirlon whispered. On the command deck, Admiral Taesung stood calmly beside Counselor Vextar, watching the approaching threat. "Your fleet will be overwhelmed," he said without emotion. "Council vessels are too slow, weapons too limited. You will lose 3/4 of your forces before you destroy even 1/10 of theirs." "Do you have a better suggestion?" Vextar asked, his 6 arms gripping the railing so hard it began to crack. "Yes. Let humanity fight this battle. Keep your forces in reserve to protect the station itself. We have the weapons and speed to engage effectively. You are 47 ships against thousands. Numbers are not everything, Counselor. Quality matters. Technology matters. And most importantly, coordination matters." Taesung activated his neural link, and suddenly every human in the fleet, on the station, and across the galaxy, knew exactly what he was thinking. "We fight as one." General Korth stormed onto the command deck. "Absolutely not. I will not surrender control of this battle to—" He never finished his sentence. The human fleet moved and the battle began. It was unlike anything the Council species had ever witnessed. Human ships flowed through space like water, never colliding, never conflicting, acting as a single organism with 47 bodies. They phased in and out of normal space, appearing behind swarm vessels to fire killing shots, then vanishing before return fire could reach them. The resonance disruptors worked exactly as Dr. Hana had described. Swarm units simply ceased to exist where the weapons struck, leaving clean holes through their formations. But there were too many enemies, and more kept arriving from beyond sensor range. "Captain Minho, report," Taesung said calmly, his voice transmitted across quantum channels. The whisper had gone deeper into swarm territory than any ship should have survived. Minho's voice came back steady despite the danger he faced. "I have mapped their deployment patterns. The main concentration is not here. This is only a scouting force. The real fleet is 3 systems away, consuming Colony World 22. Strength estimate? 50,000 vessels. Maybe more. They are building new units faster than I can count them." The command deck went silent. 50,000. The number was impossible to fight conventionally. Lieutenant Daehyun stepped forward. "Admiral, recommend immediate withdrawal. We cannot win this engagement." "Agreed," Taesung said immediately. "All human vessels disengage and regroup at Station Harmony. Captain Minho, fall back to safe distance and continue reconnaissance." The human fleet vanished as quickly as it had engaged. One moment they were cutting through swarm formations. The next they were gone, leaving only destroyed enemy vessels spinning in space. The swarm did not pursue. It simply continued toward the station, its advance inevitable and patient. General Korth's face was red with anger. You retreated? You cowards, you. We are not cowards, General, Taesung interrupted. We are intelligent. That fleet was meant to test our capabilities. Every moment we fought, the swarm was learning. Now we have information about their tactics, their weaknesses, and their distribution, and they have learned far less about us than they hoped. Vextar looked at the approaching swarm fleet. Can the station defend itself? Not for long. We should evacuate non-essential personnel. We are not abandoning Station Harmony, Korth shouted. This station has stood for 3,000 years, and it will stand again, Taesung said calmly, after we win. But win requires preparation, strategy, and sacrifice. Are you willing to sacrifice thousands to save a building? Vextar made his decision. Begin evacuation. Priority to civilians and refugees. As species began boarding transport ships, Dr. Hana joined Admiral Taesung on the observation deck. We are losing, she said quietly. We are learning, he corrected. Every battle teaches us more about the enemy. Captain Minho will find their central intelligence. When he does, we strike there and end this. And if he cannot find it? Taesung looked at the approaching storm of swarm vessels, his expression unreadable. Then we find another way. Humanity did not survive 800 years in isolation by giving up. We survived by becoming harder than any challenge we faced. The swarm fleet drew closer. The battle for the galaxy's survival had truly begun. And no one knew if even humanity's frightening evolution would be enough to stop it. Far in the darkness between stars, Captain Minho's ship slid through dimensions that beings of normal matter could never perceive. He hunted the galaxy's greatest threat, knowing that millions of lives depended on his success. The hunt was on. The evacuation of Station Harmony took 6 hours. Refugee ships launched constantly, carrying millions of civilians toward safer systems deeper in Council space. But even as they fled, everyone knew the truth. There might not be any safe systems left soon. Admiral Taesung watched from the command deck as the last transport vessel departed. Beside him, Counselor Vextar looked older than his 4 centuries. The weight of leadership during crisis had aged him visibly in just days. The station is now a military target only, Vextar said quietly. All civilians are away. Good. That simplifies things. Taesung turned to Lieutenant Daehyun. Deploy human forces to defensive grid pattern Delta 7. Coordinate with Council Defense Fleet. They will hold the primary line. We will be the dagger. Daehyun nodded, his eyes distant as he communicated through the neural network. Within seconds, human ships across 12 star systems knew the battle plan. No words needed to be transmitted, no orders written down. Information flowed like water through connected minds. The swarm arrived 3 hours later. They came as a cloud of death, thousands of vessels moving with mechanical precision. Each unit was different, some small and fast, others massive and slow, but all shared the same purpose: consume everything in their path. Council defense forces opened fire first. Energy weapons lanced through space, missiles streaked toward targets, and kinetic projectiles flew at relativistic speeds. Many shots found their marks. Swarm vessels exploded or broke apart, spilling metallic debris that immediately began reforming into new shapes. They are adapting, Commander Thorix reported from his position on the defense coordination team. Shield frequencies are shifting to counter our weapons. Expected, Taesung replied. Human forces engage. The human fleet struck like lightning. They appeared behind swarm formations, fired resonance disruptors that simply deleted enemy vessels from existence, then vanished before counterattack could reach them. They moved through space in patterns that seemed random, but were actually precisely calculated, never presenting the same angle or approach twice. Captain Minho's voice came through the quantum link. Admiral, I have found something. Transmitting coordinates. Data flooded into Taesung's neural interface. Deep in swarm territory, 7 systems away, Minho had discovered a massive structure. It was not a ship or a station. It was something else entirely. A construct built from the remains of 100 dead worlds kilometers across, pulsing with energy that bent space around it. That is their central intelligence, Minho reported. I observed command signals originating from that location. Every swarm unit in the galaxy is receiving instructions from that structure. Can you get closer? Scan its defenses? I can try. But Admiral, the structure is protected by what I estimate to be 10,000 swarm vessels, the largest concentration I have observed. If they detect me, they will not detect you. You are humanity's best scout, Captain. Trust your ship. Trust yourself. Understood. Continuing reconnaissance. Back at Station Harmony, the battle intensified. More swarm vessels kept arriving, reinforcements flowing in from conquered systems. The Council fleet was taking heavy losses despite human support. Ships exploded in brilliant flashes, taking hundreds of crew members with them. General Korth commanded from a heavy cruiser at the front line. Despite his hostility toward humanity, he was a skilled warrior. His ship fought with determination, coordinating defense forces with practiced efficiency. Human vessels, we need support on the western flank. Swarm units are breaking through. 3 human ships immediately phased into position, their resonance disruptors cutting through the breakthrough attempt. But even their advanced weapons could not be everywhere at once. Dr. Hana worked frantically in her laboratory, still searching for better solutions. Around her, Council scientists struggled to understand swarm technology quickly enough to develop countermeasures. The problem was that the swarm kept adapting. Every defense they created, the enemy overcame within hours. We need a weapon that affects their entire network simultaneously, suggested Torvin, the crystalline scientist. Something that targets their quantum connection to the central intelligence. Hana paused, considering. A resonance cascade. If we could create a signal that disrupts quantum entanglement on a massive scale, it would sever the connection between the central intelligence and every swarm unit in the galaxy. Torvin finished. His crystalline body pulsed with excitement. But generating such a signal would require enormous power, and it would need to be transmitted from inside their defensive perimeter, close to the central intelligence itself. A delivery system, Hana said slowly, understanding dawning. We would need a ship to carry the resonance device directly to the structure Captain Minho found. A suicide mission. The laboratory fell silent. Everyone understood what that meant. Someone would have to fly into the most heavily defended location in the galaxy and detonate a weapon so powerful it might destroy everything within several light years. Hana activated her neural link. Admiral Taesung, I have a solution. But you will not like it. On the command deck, Taesung listened to her explanation. His expression never changed. When she finished, he was quiet for a long moment. How long to build this resonance device? With human and council scientists working together? 48 hours. The swarm will reach the core systems in 60 hours. We have time. Begin construction immediately. I will lead the delivery mission personally. Admiral, Lieutenant Daehyun protested, you cannot. I can and I will. Humanity needs a symbol. The Council needs proof of our commitment. And most importantly, I am the most qualified to complete this mission. Taesung's voice carried absolute certainty. The Silent Horizon will carry the device. Any crew member who wishes to volunteer may join me. Any who wish to stay will not be judged. Through the neural network, 60,000 human minds received his message simultaneously. Within seconds, the responses came back. Not a single crew member of the Silent Horizon chose to leave. They would follow their admiral into certain death without hesitation. Ambassador Thirlon heard about the plan and immediately sought out Admiral Taesung. He found him in the observation lounge, staring at the ongoing battle through transparent walls. You are really going to do this? Thirlon said. It was not a question. Yes. Why? You could send anyone. You're too valuable to lose. Taesung turned to face the ambassador. That is exactly why it must be me. Leadership means being willing to sacrifice yourself first, not last. The Council has spent months fearing humanity. It is time we showed you who we truly are. Not conquerors or destroyers, protectors. 60,000 people will die with you. 60,000 people are choosing to give their lives so that trillions can survive. That is the price of victory sometimes. Taesung looked back at the battle. We evolved to become deadly, Ambassador. Now we use that deadliness in service of life. There is no greater purpose. Thirlon's mandibles clicked in respect. I will ensure the galaxy remembers your sacrifice. Remember the sacrifice of every human who fights today. Remember every Council soldier who gives their life defending their homes. We are all heroes in this war, or we are all victims. I prefer we choose to be heroes. The battle for Station Harmony raged for 3 more days. Human and Council forces fought side by side. learning to trust each other through shared combat. General Korth's cruiser was badly damaged, saved only by the timely intervention of a human destroyer that phased in to absorb enemy fire meant for him. When Korth tried to thank them afterward, the human captain simply said, "We fight together now." In her laboratory, Dr. Hana led the construction of the resonance device. It was a sphere 3 meters across, filled with quantum processors and zero-point energy generators. The power it would release upon detonation could crack a planet in half. Delivered at the heart of the swarm's central intelligence, it would send a quantum shockwave through every entangled particle in their network. "It is ready," she finally announced after 2 days of continuous work. Her eyes were red from exhaustion, but there was satisfaction in her voice. The device will create a resonance cascade that collapses the quantum states of anything connected to the swarm network. Their central intelligence will be destroyed and every unit will lose coordination. They will still be dangerous individually, Counselor Vextar noted. Yes, but manageable. Without central coordination, they can be defeated conventionally. This weapon gives us a chance. The device was loaded onto the silent horizon with ceremony. Species from across the council came to watch, many leaving offerings or prayers according to their cultures. They knew they were watching 60,000 beings prepare for death. Admiral Tae-sung addressed his crew one final time. They stood in the massive assembly hall of the silent horizon, thousands of humans united in purpose. "We have been given the gift of evolution," he said, his voice calm and clear. 800 years ago we were imprisoned for being too dangerous, too aggressive, too violent. They were right to fear us, but they failed to understand that humans can choose what kind of dangerous we want to be. We chose to become dangerous to protect, not to conquer, deadly in defense of others, not in service of ourselves. He paused, looking at the faces around him, young and old, male and female, all connected through the neural network but still beautifully individual. Today we prove that choice. Today we show the galaxy that humanity's greatest weapon is not our technology or our tactics. It is our willingness to sacrifice everything for those who cannot defend themselves. We fly into darkness so that others may live in light. We embrace death so that life can continue. The crew responded as one, not with cheers but with silence. Perfect, determined silence. Captain Minho's reconnaissance complete, he transmitted the final approach vectors. The path to the swarm's central structure was mapped, including every defensive position and patrol pattern. The silent horizon would need to fight through 10,000 enemy vessels to reach the detonation point. "We will create a corridor," Captain Minho promised. "Every human ship will converge on that location. We will clear the path with our lives if necessary." "No," Tae-sung said firmly. "You will clear the path with your skill and technology. Dying unnecessarily is not sacrifice, it is waste. Fight smart. Survive if you can. But make sure nothing stops the silent horizon." The countdown began, 30 minutes until departure. Council forces repositioned to provide maximum support. Human vessels throughout the galaxy began moving toward the convergence point. Even ships that had been assigned to other sectors abandoned their posts to join this final attack. Dr. Hana came to say goodbye to Admiral Tae-sung. They stood together in silence for a long moment. "I should be going with you," she finally said. "No. You should be here helping the galaxy rebuild after we win. Someone needs to bridge the gap between humanity and the Council. You are that bridge. I do not want to lose you. You will not lose me. I will live in every human memory, connected through our network. When this is over, you will still feel my presence in your thoughts." He smiled slightly. "Besides, someone needs to make sure the Council gives us a proper monument." Despite the situation, Hana laughed. Then she saluted, human style. "Goodbye, Admiral. Make it count." "I intend to." The silent horizon departed Station Harmony with an escort of 46 other human vessels. Behind them, the entire Council defense fleet formed up to provide support. Even General Korth's damaged cruiser limped along, refusing to miss the battle. As they accelerated toward the swarm's central structure, every being in the galaxy who knew about the mission watched and waited. This would be the moment that decided everything. Humanity was about to show exactly how dangerous they had become, and they would do it in complete determined silence. The journey to the swarm's central structure took 8 hours at maximum speed. During that time, the combined human and Council fleet fought through 17 defensive positions. Each battle was brutal and costly. but they pushed forward with determination that could not be stopped. Captain Minho's ship, the Whisper, led the way. It phased through dimensions that normal matter could not access, appearing behind swarm formations to mark targets for the main fleet. His crew worked in perfect synchronization, their neural links allowing them to react to threats before sensors even detected them. Next defensive line in 3 minutes, Minho reported calmly. Estimate 4,000 enemy vessels. Recommend formation pattern Echo 3. The fleet adjusted instantly. Human ships formed a spearhead, with council vessels providing supporting fire from protected positions. When they hit the swarm defensive line, the battle was over in 90 seconds. Resonance disruptors carved holes through enemy formations while council weapons exploited the gaps. But the cost was mounting. 3 human ships had been destroyed. 14 council vessels were gone, and they were only halfway to their target. On the bridge of the silent horizon, Admiral Tae-sung monitored the battle with calm focus. Around him, his crew worked in silence, communicating through their neural network. They were not afraid. Fear would be useless now. Lieutenant Dae-hyun coordinated tactical data from every ship in the fleet, processing information faster than any computer. Admiral, I am detecting increased activity around the central structure. The swarm knows we are coming. Good. Let them prepare. It will not matter. Dr. Hana's voice came through the quantum link from Station Harmony. Admiral, the resonance device is stable. All systems showing green. When you reach the detonation point, you will have approximately 45 seconds to activate the sequence before the swarm can react. Understood. We will not need 45 seconds, the fleet pressed on. More defensive positions fell. More ships were lost. General Korth's cruiser took catastrophic damage but refused to retreat, its weapons still firing until the very end. The last transmission from Korth was simple. For the Council, for the galaxy, for those who come after us. Then his ship exploded in a brilliant flash that destroyed 100 swarm vessels. Ambassador Thirlon watched from Station Harmony, his compound eyes tracking every vessel on the tactical display. Around him, representatives from every council species stood in silence, witnessing the sacrifice being made on their behalf. They fight like demons, someone whispered. No, Thirlon corrected quietly. They fight like guardians. There is a difference. The fleet reached the final defensive perimeter around the swarm's central structure. What they found there was beyond anything they had imagined. 10,000 swarm vessels formed concentric rings around a structure so massive it had its own gravity field. The construct was built from the remains of dead worlds. Planetary cores ripped apart and reformed into a geometric nightmare. At its center, visible even from thousands of kilometers away, was a pulsing core of energy that hurt to look at. That is their central intelligence, Captain Minho confirmed. All command signals originate from that core. The resonance device must detonate within 500 meters of it. Then that is where we will go, Tae-sung said simply. The final battle began. Human ships phased in and out of normal space, attacking from impossible angles. Council vessels that had survived this far fought with desperate courage. The swarm responded with overwhelming numbers, but for once, numbers were not enough. Lieutenant Dae-hyun coordinated the attack with precision that bordered on precognition. Every human mind in the fleet was connected, thinking as one organism. They anticipated enemy movements, covered each other's vulnerabilities, and created opportunities through synchronized actions that no normal military force could achieve. One by one, the defensive rings fell. Human ships were destroyed, but they destroyed 10 swarm vessels for each one lost. The mathematics of sacrifice were brutal but clear. Humanity was trading lives to buy time for the silent horizon to reach its target. Captain Minho's Whisper took critical damage while covering the Admiral's approach. His ship was dying, reactor failing, but he kept fighting. Admiral, the path is clear. Go now. Captain, evacuate your crew. No time. No need. Minho's voice was calm despite his ship breaking apart around him. We knew the cost when we volunteered. Make it count. The Whisper exploded, taking 300 swarm vessels with it in a final act of defiance. But the sacrifice created a gap in the defensive perimeter wide enough for the silent horizon to slip through. The massive human flagship accelerated toward the central structure. Every weapon firing to clear its path. Swarm vessels tried to intercept, but the remaining human ships formed a protective screen, absorbing fire meant for their admiral. 500 kilometers from target. Lieutenant Daehyun reported. 400. 300. Swarm defenses intensified. Energy weapons struck the Silent Horizon's shields, draining them rapidly. The ship shook from impacts, but it kept moving forward with unstoppable momentum. 200 kilometers. 100. Activate the resonance device, Admiral Tae-sung ordered. Dr. Hana's voice came through one last time. Device activated. 45 seconds to detonation. Admiral, she paused, her voice breaking slightly. Thank you. For everything. The honor was mine, Doctor. Take care of the galaxy for us. 50 kilometers from the central structure, the Silent Horizon took a direct hit that penetrated its shields. Secondary explosions ripped through multiple decks. The ship was dying, but it was close enough now. 20 kilometers, 10-5. Admiral Tae-sung stood at the center of his bridge, surrounded by his crew. They all knew these were their final moments. Through the neural network, 60,000 minds touched one last time, sharing memories, feelings, and the unshakable certainty that what they were doing mattered. It has been an honor serving with all of you, Tae-sung said quietly. Humanity will remember us. The galaxy will remember us. We did what we evolved to do, protect those who cannot protect themselves. 1 kilometer. Target achieved. The resonance device detonated. For a fraction of a second, the explosion was contained within the Silent Horizon's hull. Then it expanded in a sphere of quantum energy that moved faster than light itself. The ship, the Admiral, and 60,000 crew members ceased to exist in an instant, their matter converted to pure energy. But that energy carried the resonance signal Dr. Hana had designed. It struck the swarm's central intelligence at the quantum level, collapsing the entangled states that connected it to billions of units across the galaxy. The effect was instantaneous. Every swarm vessel suddenly went dark. Ships that had been attacking in perfect coordination simply stopped moving. The intelligence that had guided them for 10,000 years was gone, deleted from reality by human sacrifice. On Station Harmony, the command center erupted in shocked silence, then celebration. Species cheered, cried, embraced each other in relief and grief. Dr. Hana stood alone in the observation lounge, tears streaming down her face. Through the neural network, she could still feel the echo of 60,000 minds that had just vanished. The emptiness was overwhelming. Ambassador Thurlon found her there an hour later. He said nothing, simply stood beside her in shared mourning. They saved us all, Hana finally whispered, and we barely knew them. Then we will learn, Thurlon replied. We will learn who they were, what they sacrificed, and why it mattered. The galaxy owes humanity a debt that can never be repaid. The cleanup took months. Without central coordination, the swarm units were easy to destroy. Council and human forces moved through the galaxy, eliminating the remnant system by system. It was tedious work, but everyone approached it with determination. The sacrifice of the Silent Horizon's crew would not be wasted. 3 months after the battle, the Council convened formally to address humanity's status. The chamber was packed. Every species sent their highest representatives. This time there was no fear, only respect. Dr. Hana stood at the central podium, representing humanity. Beside her stood Lieutenant Dae-hyun, now promoted to Admiral in recognition of his tactical brilliance. Across from them, Counselor Vextar prepared to speak. For 800 years we imprisoned humanity out of fear. Vextar began, his voice carrying to every corner of the chamber. We told ourselves it was for the good of the galaxy. We convinced ourselves that humans were too dangerous to be trusted. We were wrong. He paused, his 6 arms spreading wide. Humanity was dangerous, but they chose what kind of dangerous to be. They evolved into the perfect warriors, then used that evolution to save us. They became deadly, then showed us that deadliness can serve life rather than destroy it. Vextar looked directly at Dr. Hana. On behalf of the Galactic Council, I formally apologize for the 8 centuries of isolation we imposed upon your species. We offer you full membership in this council, with all rights and privileges that entails. More than that, we ask you to help us build a better galaxy. One where species work together instead of fearing each other. The council chamber erupted in applause. Every species present voted to accept humanity as equal members. The vote was unanimous. Dr. Hana waited for silence before responding. We accept your offer, but we have conditions. First, humanity will never again be restricted or contained. We will go where we choose, explore what interests us, and grow as we see fit. Second, we will share our technology with any species that wishes to learn, but it will be given freely, never taken by force. Third, we will defend this galaxy from external threats, but we will not be used as weapons in internal conflicts. Agreed, Vextar said immediately. All conditions are acceptable. Then humanity joins the Galactic Council, not as conquerors, not as servants, as equals and partners. The chamber erupted in celebration again, but Dr. Hana raised her hand for attention. There is one more thing. We wish to establish a memorial for those who gave their lives to save the galaxy. Not just human lives, but all lives lost in the battle against the swarm. Admiral Tae-sung would have wanted everyone remembered. Where should this memorial be built? Vextar asked. At the location where the silent horizon made its final stand, where the resonance cascade began, where 60,000 humans and tens of thousands of council soldiers proved that different species can die together for a common cause. Let it be a reminder that we are stronger together than apart. The proposal was approved immediately. Construction began within weeks. The memorial would be a structure visible from light years away, a monument to sacrifice and cooperation. 1 year after the battle, the memorial was completed. Dr. Hana and Admiral Dae-hyun attended the dedication ceremony, along with representatives from every council species. The structure was beautiful in its simplicity, a ring of light surrounding empty space where the silent horizon had died, with names of every fallen warrior etched in quantum-stable matter that would last 1,000,000 years. Ambassador Thurlan spoke at the ceremony. These names represent the price of freedom, the cost of survival, but they also represent something more important: the choice to protect others at the expense of ourselves. Humanity showed us that evolution does not have to make us selfish. It can make us better. Dr. Hana added her own words. Admiral Tae-sung once told me that we spent 800 years learning what truly matters. Today I understand what he meant. Power without purpose is meaningless. Strength without compassion is hollow. We evolved to become deadly, but we chose to become something more. We chose to become guardians. She looked at the assembled crowd, seeing species that had feared humanity just months ago now standing in respect and friendship. They made us silent. They made us deadly. But they also made us understand that our greatest strength is not our technology or our tactics. It is our willingness to sacrifice for those who cannot defend themselves. The ceremony concluded with a moment of silence, followed by a synchronized flash from every human ship in the galaxy. Thousands of vessels decloaked simultaneously, appearing in systems across council space. It was a demonstration of presence, a reminder that humanity now watched over the galaxy. But it was also a promise that they would always be there when needed. 5 years later, the galaxy had transformed. Human technology was being integrated into council systems. Joint research facilities studied problems that no single species could solve alone. Mixed crews served on ships exploring the unknown regions beyond the galactic rim. Dr. Hana had become humanity's primary representative to the council, working with Ambassador Thurlan to build bridges between species. Admiral Dae-hyun commanded the Joint Defense Forces, combining human and council military assets into a unified fleet. And everywhere, humanity's silent presence could be felt. Ghost ships patrolled the darkness, invisible guardians watching for threats. Human researchers shared their knowledge freely, accelerating scientific progress across dozens of fields. Human engineers helped rebuild worlds damaged by the swarm. They had become exactly what Admiral Tae-sung envisioned: deadly when necessary, but devoted to protection rather than conquest. On a quiet day, Dr. Hana stood in the observation lounge of what everyone now called the Silent Horizon 2, a new flagship built to honor the original. Through the windows, she could see a colony world where human and alien children played together in parks designed by both species. Lieutenant Yuna, who had served with Captain Minho and survived his final battle, joined her at the window. "Do you think Admiral Tae-sung would be proud of what we have built?" Hana smiled. "I think he knew this is where we would end up. He saw the potential in both humanity and the Council. He gave his life betting that we could become something better together than apart." "Do you still feel him? Through the network?" "Sometimes. In quiet moments. A memory. A thought. An echo of who he was." Hana paused. "But more than that, I feel what he taught us. That being dangerous is not the same as being cruel. That evolution can make us stronger without making us colder. That silence can be a choice, not a weakness." Far below, a human child and an alien child worked together to build something in the playground. They laughed as they cooperated, sharing ideas and materials without any thought that they were different species. "That is what we are protecting," Hana said softly. "Not territory or resources or power. The possibility that different beings can build something together that none of them could build alone." Yuna nodded. "The galaxy was terrified when we emerged from the quarantine zone. Silent and deadly. Yes. But they learned that we were also loyal and willing to sacrifice everything for what matters most." Hana turned away from the window. "We evolved in isolation, but we choose to exist in community. That choice defines us more than any technology or weapon ever could." The silent Horizon 2 continued its patrol, watching over the galaxy with eyes that never closed and weapons that would only be used in defense of others. Around it, dozens of other human ships did the same, scattered across thousands of systems. Humanity had become the shield the galaxy never knew it needed. Silent in peace, deadly in war, and always watching. The Galactic Council had been terrified when humans emerged from the quarantine zone. Now they slept peacefully, knowing that humanity stood guard in the darkness. And in that darkness, humanity found its true purpose: not to conquer but to protect, not to dominate but to defend, not to inspire fear but to preserve hope. They had evolved to become deadly. Then they chose to use that deadliness for something greater than themselves, and the galaxy would never forget.